rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, I hope everybody's week is going well. I'm waiting for tomorrow to come up and be over it. Because obviously that'll be the end of the regular work week. But, well, it is what it is. Time is the only constant in life, and that constant, of course, is continual change, because that's what time is continual change. Anyway, let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. Tonight, for the Pledge of Allegiance, we have our friend and forever whiskey warrior, Buddy Weiser, may he rest in peace, is up for tonight's pledge. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Buddy as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
And I normally would thank Buddy for that. Obviously, he... Anyway, if you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting the pledge or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And Buddy used to always say, too, he would say, share it, too, and which I guess is the phone version. If you record yourself on your phone, you can hit share and then get to your email client and send it off to me. Once again, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And of course, I'll get you in the rotation. If you do it soon, you'll get number 20. I'd like to get even numbers. I always like number 20s, or I always like even numbers. But yeah, right now I have 19, and we need to get 20 for it. So yeah, Mark over on Facebook did not know that Buddy had passed. I had discussed it about a little over a week ago, but he had passed on the 9th of September. And I found out the following week. So I checked in on him because I hadn't heard from him for a while, and I checked in on him, and he had passed on the 9th. So rest in peace, fellow. And one of the OGs, I don't know if he was the original Whiskey Warrior or whatever, but yeah, anyway, so there you go. Anyway, all right. So that being said, man, just so much stuff going on, in terms of things happening everywhere. I've got a couple things in the pipeline that, I'm hoping will come to fruition, for which I think will be some very interesting episodes, but obviously they're dependent upon other people. So I need to, verify things with them, first. And, second of all, yeah, just a lot of stuff going on in terms of the the news as well. So let's go ahead and get things going with our headline sponsor tonight. Of course, this being Thursday, it is the Institute on the Constitution, which was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online, or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. And just remember, according to 3 Chevy, each book purchased will cause a leftist to have an emotional breakdown. It's got some thick, rounded corners here. And take a look. It's 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Look inside here, folks. No cheap glue. This is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if something does go wrong, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested and buddy approved. It is Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you study for your civics badge in scouting or your civics exam if you still have those. Anyway, go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, as they have a plethora of information about our wonderful country that we call home. Yeah, I thank them for allowing me to be a brand affiliate. Okay. And Outlaw Dogs, who is over in the Rumble chat, she did, when I say Billy tasted it, it's actually true. Billy, her dog, did taste the leather. So that is real. I'm not messing up about that. So, there you go. All right. So first things first, you'll remember, I don't know, probably about a month ago that I took you through, I had talked, I had shown you the article from the Daily Wire with regards to Mary Margaret Holohan and her precursor look at the, what is considered to be now dubbed the Presidential Walk of Fame, running along the Rose Garden colonnade on the West Wing. Well, they have finally unveiled it. Okay. They have unveiled it. And, yeah, Margot, the special assistant to the president, Margot Martin, shared a video of this newly installed Walk of Fame. Yeah, you guys have really got to take a look at the video. Let's see, where am I at here? Wow, I really am not. I'm falling down on the job here because I seriously did not have anything set up for this. So there we go. All right, so here we are, and this, by the way, is on X in Breitbart. But anyway, X is where it is. So here you go. Let's take a look at this thing. And you can see they've got the presidents. There's Reagan, and then Bush, and then Clinton, and then Bush, and then Obama, and then Trump won. And then as you slowly go in, here, I'm going to pause it really quick here. Boom. Take a look at that. That's the auto pen. He had a picture of the auto pen with Joe Biden's signature. Oh, instead of using Joe Biden's picture, he put in the auto pen. Now, I told you a while ago that he was going to do it. He told people a while ago that he was going to do it. Well, he did it. And there it is. There it is. And then, of course, Trump once again. Now, obviously, he used a different, well, he used black and white photos. That's the first thing. He did the black and white photos across the board, which I think was actually pretty classy. But anyway, they went ahead and did that. And then he did not do the mugshot. He kind of tossed around the idea that he was going to do the mugshot, or one of his photos. But anyway, that's where it is. It's the auto pen for 46. Oh, Trump, the king of trolls. So anyway. All right. So, I get the feeling that the scales of justice might actually be tipping back into more of a balanced. I'm not going to say they're going to tip all the way to the right, because they've been tipped to the left for so long. But you do have to wonder, realistically, with some of the changes that have been going on, especially in the last 6 months, between all of the apprehensions of the illegal aliens and the deportations and the self-deportations and all of this other stuff. You have to wonder if maybe the scales are being tipped back at least into a more balanced state. Well, to start that, the first thing that I want to talk about tonight is the state of North Carolina. There, the legislature has approved a criminal justice reform bill. And that criminal justice reform bill has been titled Irina's Law, named after the Ukrainian refugee that was brutally knifed and killed on the train. And this law, which has been approved, is aimed at limiting bail and restarting the death penalty in the state. So North Carolina has decided that this horrific criminal act that occurred on August 22nd is now a cause to get behind, and tighten bail rules, restart executions in the state. And it awaits Democrat Governor Judge Stein's decision to sign or veto it. I'm going to be honest with you. I personally hope that Josh Stein does not do the wrong thing, but does the right thing, and goes ahead and signs this over the objections of his Democrat idiots that are in his party. So the individual who performed the killing has had over a dozen prior arrests, but was released without bond or a misdemeanor charge earlier that year. Released without bond on a misdemeanor charge earlier this year. He was diagnosed. This is the other thing. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, according to his mother. And yeah, anyway. So during the debate about it, Republican representative in North Carolina, Tricia Cottom, said during the debate that she was criticizing lax bail practices, saying this heinous act was preventable, which it completely was. It was completely preventable. And she continued and says, when we have magistrates who are asleep at the wheel, like this one obviously was, then we've got to make a change. The bill aims, of course, to get rid of the cashless bail idea and also limit judicial discretion in pretrial releases. So that's another one. And by the way, North Carolina has paused executions since 2006. But yeah, hopefully they're going to take care of it. The Senate leader, Phil Berger, introduced an amendment to explore alternative execution methods like firing squads or electrocution if lethal injection is unavailable. This is the proper thing to do. Not that I'm necessarily wishing death on anybody per se, but this is the proper thing to do. Because we seriously have gotten into a position here in the United States due to Democrats' lax policies on crime that we are now making it to where the criminals are treated better than the victims, and that the criminals know that they're just going to get away with just a slap on the wrist. So there is no deterrent to performing crime, especially if you live in what is considered to be a blue state, a state run by Democrats. So anyway, so that's good news. That is really good news. Hopefully the stupid Democrat governor decides to actually sign the damn thing, though. And realistically, I'm just going to point this out. I mean, I'm looking at the photo that was taken the moment she was essentially just after she had been stabbed by this guy. There's 3 individuals, 2 of them men, on the opposite side of the train. Here, I didn't show you this, but take a look at this here. This was taken moments after the knife had entered her throat, folks. I see a woman directly across from Irina. I see a man directly across from the sick individual that performed the thing, the heinous act, and then another man who's sitting 2 seats back from them. And not one person bothered to step up and do a damn thing. Not one person bothered to do a damn thing. And I'm not talking about, attacking the perpetrator, but the perpetrator walks away. And this poor girl is left to just bleed out on the seat. Now, not saying that there was anything that could be done. I mean, when you're hit in the neck, what a lot of people don't seem to understand, but when you have your carotid artery cut into, it literally is within seconds, if not minutes. You can bleed out extremely quickly, which is what happened with Charlie Kirk. And you have to get to it. If something like that happens and you get a wound in the neck like that, you need to get medical attention immediately. It's not, we can wait. No, it's immediate. Any hesitation in a wound like that, and you are essentially you're going to die. You're going to go. And if you watch the video of this particular event, you'll see that she, within, seconds, I mean, we're talking like 30 seconds of her being hit. First of all, she doesn't even know what's going on. She's completely, you can see on her face, and I'm not necessarily advocating that anybody should watch this, but you can see on her face just the look of shock and disbelief. She has no idea what is happening to her. And the entire time she is slowly, quickly bleeding out. And she ends up to where within 30 seconds she passes out and she's gone. That's how quick it happens. That's how quickly it happens. And I can't even imagine just the callousness of the people that were on that train alone. But anyway. Well, another person who really is like, I'm telling you, this man, when he looked into the cameras and during his testimony at one point, the pictures floated around all over the place. This guy is literally, I would say, if anybody was, possessed by a demon, this guy definitely is, with the looks that he was giving during his testimony. But, yeah, this in the Daily Fetched. You remember the man, Peter Stroh? Or Struck? However you pronounce his last freaking name. He apparently was suing the government, claiming that his FBI firing was political retaliation. And a federal judge has finally dismissed this guy's lawsuit. Now, this guy's lawsuit stemmed from the idea that he claimed his First Amendment rights were violated when he was fired during the first Trump administration. Well, District Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who is an Obama appointee, said that Peter Strzok did not show his firing violated his First Amendment rights. So, yeah. He lost, and this was a long-running lawsuit, obviously, but he lost it, claiming that he was illegally fired during Donald Trump's first term after sending text messages that criticized Trump. Now, people, I'm just going to point this out. Look, if you are employed by a business and you are doing, let's just say, things that they don't care about, or they don't care for, I should say, that they don't care for, they absolutely have the right to fire you. They don't need necessarily to support your activist actions. I mean, if my business, my regular 9-to-5 found out about this and didn't think that this was a proper use of my ability, I could get fired. That wouldn't be a violation of my First Amendment rights, because I would still have the right afterward as an individual to come online and still continue the show, regardless of whether or not my 9-to-5 liked it or not. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is the First Amendment doesn't have anything to do with private companies. In fact, the First Amendment doesn't even really have anything to do with the state. Even though the states will uphold your First Amendment rights, I mean, realistically, the First Amendment is focused on government, but if you read the First Amendment, it is literally, by its very words, limited to Congress. That's what it says. Congress shall make no law, etc., etc., etc. Congress shall make no law. It doesn't say anything about the states. And the reason why it was phrased that way, believe it or not, is because several states had religious laws on the books. For an example, there were some states that required you to be of a specific religion to come and live within their states at the time. It wasn't until a little bit later on in our history that things started loosening up, let's say. But the point here that I'm trying to make is that this guy is like trying to make it to where, the FBI fired me. No, the FBI fired you because you were a dumbass and you were trying to manipulate the law and breaking your oath to try to manipulate the law and, in an illegal fashion, or a very unethical fashion anyway. So, yeah, there you go. So what it was, if you just to recall, Stroke and his lover, I guess, Lisa Page, discussed an insurance policy to keep Trump out of office back in the day. And they said, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, referring to Andy McCabe, that there's no way Trump gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. That was Stroh messaging Page on August 15th of 2016. Stroke added, it's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. And there's a bunch more of other stuff. But anyway, yeah. So, yep. There you go. That's just, thankfully he is no longer a part of the FBI and yeah, he is, getting what's coming to him. So maybe the balance is coming back. Speaking of the FBI, breaking news, and by breaking, I mean like 15 minutes before I came live, former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on federal charges. Now here's part of the interesting thing of that. He was indicted by a grand jury on charges of making a false statement and obstruction in a criminal case. Personally, I hope they add some other stuff in here, like failing to do his sworn duty by not taking Hillary Clinton down for her classified information email server thing that he decided to not do anything about. But anyway, federal prosecutors on Thursday announced that they had won an indictment of him in the federal court. He was indicted by a grand jury in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia on charges of making false statements and obstruction in a criminal case. Now, we can't get too excited about this because, honestly, a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich for nothing but being a ham sandwich. See, what a lot of people don't understand is when you're presented in front of a grand jury or you're doing testimony in front of a grand jury, there is no opportunity for the defense to actually defend. That's not a normal trial. See, basically what a grand jury is it's just a group of individuals. They bring you in and the prosecution presents their case. And you essentially, as a part of that grand jury, your question that is presented to you is basically this. Do you feel that there is enough evidence here that somebody may have broken the law and that we need to go to trial? That's basically it. That's what a grand jury is. So in terms of being able to indict someone, it's really very simple, honestly. All you have to do is have enough evidence, a preponderance of the evidence, to be able to show that, hey, yeah, we got a reason to bring this person to trial. And that person, whoever that is, has absolutely no recourse. They have no defense. There is no cross-examination or any of the other stuff that you see in all of these trial cases or anything else. So that being said, In a post on X, apparently referencing the indictment, Attorney General Pam Bondi wrote, "No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case." Well, if she's after misleading the American people, I got a couple other people that could probably fall on that list. One of them is by the name of Shifty Schiff. Anyway, Kash Patel echoed the sentiment on X, saying, "For far too long, the previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust." He said political weaponization was the most blatant during the Russiagate hoax, a disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. And so, yeah, there you go. Obviously, neither one of them named Comey directly, and the Department of Justice, according to the Epic Times here, didn't immediately return a request for comment. So basically, all this is about is during his September 30th, 2020 testimony, which, by the way, the statute of limitations on charging him was going to run out the beginning of next week. So they pretty much got this in under the wire, per se. But during his September 30th, 2020 testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee, Comey was questioned about his role in and awareness of a 2016 to 2017 plan by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to discredit her Republican opponent, then candidate Donald Trump. Comey told the panel that he had no knowledge of a CIA memo sent to him to inform him of the plan. And then, of course, a week later, DNI John Ratcliffe released a redacted form of the 2016 memo, apprising Comey of the intelligence suggesting that Clinton had approved such a plan. Well, we all know Clinton made it up. Clinton approved it. You know, even Obama approved it. Obama was a part of this, too, don't forget. Notes by John Brennan, who served as the director of the CIA during this time, showed that the CIA had obtained intelligence of alleged approval by Hillary Clinton on 26 July of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by the Russian security services. Of course, we all know that's bullshit. The entire thing was made up. And, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, my chat's going nuts, folks. My chat's going nuts. They're talking about shepherd's pie, making my freaking... making my mouth water here. Because I like shepherd's pie. Anyway, sorry. I digress. We're off track. Off track. Anyway, let's go on here. So, in 2019, of course, the Mueller report was released to the public. The report did not establish that the members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. They spent a lot of time and money on that. And, yeah. So anyway. Oh, this guy, I'm just going to tell you, thank goodness he is out of here. All right. Well, before I get to my next story, let me go ahead and tell you about, let's see, which one is going to be, oh, this is a new one. We'll try this one. All right. So, did you know that the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often? Ooh, that's weird. Sorry, let me redo that line again. Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often? Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice. If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE, S-A-F-E, to the number 35052 today to get that report, and that report on the one step you can take to secure your financial future. My guess is it probably has a reference to investing in precious metals. Do you think? Text SAFE, S-A-F-E, to 35052 today to get that information. Once again, text SAFE, S-A-F-E, to 35052 to find out what that one step is that you can take to secure your financial freedom. That's SAFE, S-A-F-E, to 35052 to talk about them at Augusta Precious Metals. All right. Well, there is another individual who has been in the news recently, and I don't know if anybody has really paid attention because this guy, let's just face it, I mean, he's got a mustache that's a bushy one. Looks like a caterpillar crawled across his lips. Of course, his eyebrows are about the same too. Anyway, so John Bolton has he wrote a book. And yes, he wrote a book about some classified information that he had. Well, the FBI apparently, according to a court filing released on Tuesday, has found documents marked as classified during a search of the former National Security Advisor's office in Washington, D.C. The search took place on August 22nd, was conducted under a warrant authorized by U.S. Magistrate Judge Moxilia Upada. Oh, boy. I really mincemeat some of these names. But anyway, according to the inventory filed in federal court, the materials retrieved in the Washington search included references to weapons of mass destruction, the U.S. mission to the United Nations, and records tied to the U.S. government's strategic communications. Now, here's the thing, folks. This is what people don't seem to understand. They went after Trump for this, having of classified documents. But here's the thing. The president and the president alone has the authority to declassify documents. And no, unlike what the left wants you to believe, he does not have this particular process that he has to go through and get approvals and all this other stuff. No. Think of him kind of like a deity in this case, where he could just look at a document and say, in his own mind, he doesn't even have to say it in front of everybody. All he has to do is just grab a document, grab a piece of paper, and it's like, boom, it's unclassified the minute he decides to do something with it. See, that's how this works. Regardless of what everybody else seems to think, that is the constitutional method. The president is the executive branch, and therefore the president has the full authority to declassify a document at any time. He doesn't need to tell anybody about it. He doesn't need to hit it with a special stamp. He doesn't need to, have a panel of experts tell him whether or not. No, he just does it. He just does it by his actions or his words, whatever. So going after President Trump like they did, in terms of going after him for those records and the classified documents that, the whole Jack Smith thing was after, that's all wrong. Now, all of that being said, there are people who do have to go through the declassification process, blah, blah, blah. Those include the vice president on down, which means that if you are caught, like VP Pence was, like former Senator and then VP and then President Joe Biden was back when he was a VP and a senator, all of that, okay, that is all, and John Bolton here now, all of that is against the law. They are not supposed to have these things in their possession, period. Joe Biden couldn't have them because he wasn't president at the time. And there's no record of Obama actually declassifying them and giving him permission to take them. So therefore, you need to understand this. This is not something that is just random. This is the way the law works. So this guy taking these things home, okay, which had several folders labeled confidential and some documents marked secret on them, and the heading on at least one set of confidential papers was redacted from the publicly available record itself. So you can't just you can't take these things. If you're part of government, you can't take these things. You can't have copies of them. You can't take photos of them. In fact, if you are going into a SCIF, which is a secured classified information facility, I believe is what it stands for. But anyway, you can't even take electronic forms like your cell phone or photos or any of that kind of stuff. You can't do that. That's wrong. That is against the law. It's against federal law. Now, the president, of course, can go ahead and just say, yep, he doesn't even need to say anything. Just by his very actions, his or her very actions can declassify something. So anyway, the searches have upended or shown that he has potential violations of 3 federal statutes, including certain provisions in the Espionage Act, covering the unauthorized gathering, transmission, or retention of national defense information, as well as laws governing the improper storage of classified materials. So, yeah. So this is now going to be a potential thing. And because of it, senior DOJ officials are now pushing for Bolton to get charged this week. So senior Department of Justice officials, sources told CNN on Thursday that they are pushing to charge former National Security Advisor John Bolton this week. So he was originally put under federal investigation in August for allegedly sending highly sensitive classified documents to his wife and daughter via, oh my gosh, a private email server? Really? While serving during the first Trump? I seem to recall there was somebody else that did this through a private email server. Had like 33,000 emails deleted. Trying to remember who that person was. Let me think. Just think really, really hard. As Secretary of State. Yeah, a woman by the name of Hillary Clinton that, James Comey didn't bother to charge her with anything. Yeah. Anyway. So, basically what's happening here is that some federal prosecutors believe they might actually have a stronger case against Bolton if they wait until later this year instead of bringing charges immediately right now. So we're going to have to see where this goes. But apparently federal investigators are determining whether Bolton sent classified information to his family while still in office prior to being dismissed in September of 2019. One senior U.S. official charged that while Bolton was the national security advisor, he literally stealing classified information using his family as a cutout. Now, the probe itself was initially opened in 2020 during the controversy over his tell-all memoir called The Room Where It Happened. But officials in the Biden administration demanded that it would be shut down. Sources tell CNN that while one attorney from the Deputy Attorney General's office has been advocating charging Bolton this week, some are concerned over too many high-profile cases that are being brought at the president's request. So here's the thing, is that and this is what the left keeps talking about. They're like, oh, no, Trump is just weaponizing the DOJ. No, folks. Trump is not weaponizing the DOJ. Trump is actually having the DOJ, surprise, surprise, enforce the law. I mean, what the hell? Really? Really? What is the purpose of the DOJ if it isn't to enforce law? I seem to recall that that's something that, the executive branch in the Constitution is supposed to do, is implement and enforce. In other words, execute law. Yeah. I seem to recall that as an Article 2 function of the executive branch of government. Yeah, maybe I'm just a little off base here. I don't know. Oh, you guys tell me. But anyway. So we may see Bolton get taken up. So, yeah. Now, keep in mind, Bolton himself has yet to be arrested or charged with any official crime as of yet. So, yeah. He's also become a regular, cable news regular, serving as a consistent adversary to Trump's foreign policy. And by the way, surprisingly enough, he actually defended Trump when the whole suckers and losers hoax came out. He actually defended it and said, no, I've never heard the president say that. Or the former, at the time, the former president, but now he's back in as the president again. So anyway, well, these leftists, for whatever reason, they really want to get out from under this thumb that they have put themselves in by essentially courting the radical part of their party. So there was a guest on MSNBC, and this is coming out of the Daily Caller, but there was a guest on MSNBC that made a claim regarding now in this particular case, they're citing the shooting at a mosque in New Zealand. And they're at the same time that they were analyzing the attack on the ICE facility in Dallas. And they basically, I'm not going to get into what it is. I'll just let him tell you on his own what he thinks. Take a listen.
Inspired? Are you worried about copycats?
Yes. I don't know if the rooftop trend is going to be a thing. I mean, it could just be coincidental that the best vantage point just happened to be elevated positions in this case. But people emulating this kind of attack is certainly a concern. The irony with the writing, the first time we really saw that was Brenton Tarrant in the Christchurch shooting in a mosque in New Zealand, and he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds very hateful information. So to see this coming from, potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange, because it is not something, if you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff. I don't know why you would, use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years by other white supremacists, why you would do that. But it does appear that people are moving in that direction because they want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. Again, terrorism is theater. They want people to understand their message and why they're doing this and why, you know, in some cases it's a narrow act of violence, and it's not supposed to be a mass murder, although it looks like it's moving a little more in that direction.
Inspire.
So, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but whenever somebody is attempting to try and
about
do
this disgusting conduct.
sorry about this.
Well, it is.
I don't know if anybody really, you know, has noticed, but whenever somebody is trying to do backflips to get to a particular position, they spend a lot of time stretching out the explanation and attempting, you know, using a lot of verbal tics, verbal pauses, those kinds of things in order to sit there and, you know, explain what they're attempting to try and connect together. Folks, look, this isn't anything really surprising, all right? Lunatics like lunatics. That's it. Just lunatics like lunatics. And they all, believe me, whether it's left, right, across, hold, whatever, they all study each other. In fact, the Dallas ICE shooter, just this most recent shooter, apparently, according to the FBI, had been studying the Charlie Kirk footage. So, again, this is ridiculous. This is what the left is trying to do, as much backflips as what they can. And, you know, a lot of people, they talk about, well, white supremacy is on the right. I actually am going to argue that and say no, because any kind of totalitarian type of government or ideology is essentially going to be more on the left than on the right. Now, there are some people out there who talk about the horseshoe theory, meaning that what happens is, whether it's left or right, they get, you know, these kinds of people like the white supremacists or the Nazis or any of those. They are kind of like tied together. They're kind of tied together in the fact that, for an example, the Nazis seem to have pulled from both sides of the political spectrum and tied it together. There's people that argue that, like Mussolini and his idea of fascism, because he's credited for creating the idea of fascism, or at least the ideology of fascism, that they actually are sort of at the space on the horseshoe where it kind of combines both sides. But the reality of it is that conservatives don't do these kinds of things. They just don't. They honestly, they don't. Conservatives actually have a respect for life. They value life. Conservatives value, human life in particular, but also understand that violence gets you literally nowhere. And so to sit here and try and tie these things together and say, hey, you know, this guy did this and this guy did that. No. They're all nuts. They're all mentally ill people. And it doesn't, honestly, half the time, it doesn't even make sense in terms of what they are doing unless they completely spell it out for you, which many of these people are going to be killed as a part of their activities. And so you never actually find out. Never actually find out why they are doing it. Well, all of that being said, it certainly doesn't help when you have leaders advocating for things that cause people to freak out. For an example, this guy, Hair Gel himself in California, he was on with Colbert, and he was talking about all of these different things, but one of the things that came out of it which is the same thing that's been said by so many different people, like Tim Walz, like Kamala Harris. They all have been doing this, and they don't really care because they just don't care. So during this appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Gavin Newsom actually expressed concern that President Trump was attempting to rig the upcoming elections. And in fact, he basically says this: look, it's not complicated. Divorce is not an option. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got to figure out a way to live together and dance together across our differences. And there is something to look success. These clues, they were successful in the last election. People need to understand what motivates them, how they keep winning in the context of how they keep organizing and building a coalition, particularly young man Charlie Kirk and what he was able to do. So he was kind enough to fly out. We spent an hour and a half together. So they were talking about Newsom interviewing him. Okay. So here's the thing, though. And this is really at the bottom of it. He says, after a little while longer, he's like talking about how the Democrats got crushed, how they're in a position where they're struggling to communicate to voters, that, they're struggling to try and win back the majority in the House of Representatives. And then he goes and he says this: but also raising awareness around how Donald Trump is trying to rig the midterm elections and how I fear that we will not have an election in 2028. He says, and I really mean that. And the core of my soul, unless we wake up to the code red, what's happening in this country, and we wake up soberly and how serious this moment is. Now, here's the dumbass. Here's the dumbass part of this. See, somebody who looked at him and hearing him say this, if he was on any kind of a reputable show, the interviewer should have come back and said, well, then why are you planning on running in 2028 then? If you really think that Donald Trump is going to rig the elections and we're not going to have another election again, then why are you gearing up for 2028? Throw it back in his face and make him explain himself. He doesn't really believe this. Come on. He really does not believe this. Because if he did, he wouldn't be gearing up for 2028. He wouldn't be spending time on a talk show that has very little viewership saying these things. He would actually be more than likely connecting and working on getting his state set up to be able to repel any kind of thing that happens, invasion that happens. No, he's not doing that. He doesn't believe this. He says that he believes it to the core of his soul, but then why would he be running in 2028? Why would he be attempting to run in 2028? If he really and truly believed it, he'd be just as mentally deranged as some of these other people that are running around here. But to the mentally ill, they're going to read that and they're going to go, oh my God, Newsom, he said this. This is the rhetoric. This is the crap that comes out of their mouths that cause people to do the things that they are doing against ICE, against Charlie Kirk, against the president himself. These people are not backing off on their rhetoric. They're not going to. Why? Because to them, they're riling up their base for a specific reason. Now, the sad part about it is it's not just their base that they're doing this to. There's people who I would consider to normally be smart and intelligent, and they're even saying, oh, Donald Trump's a dictator. He's a Nazi. He's whatever. Which is all bullshit. Every single one of them. But he's doing this because he is attempting to try and revive the crazies. He doesn't care. He's not going to back off on his rhetoric. He doesn't really believe that, because if he did, he wouldn't be running. And that's really the bottom line out of all of this. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or thumbs sideways if you're 3 Chevy. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.